Now it is time for the big functions review. So go ahead and get a new notebook up, collab.research.google.com, and I started a mini functions review previously, so I'm going to call this functions review full to distinguish it. Okay, so what we're going to do now is go over several different functions together, starting from the basic and then getting a little more complex as we go through. The expectation here is not that you can do all of these right now. The expectation is that with some review, it's going to refresh yourself and that you can do hopefully, the majority of them. Okay. Yeah, maybe you need a little help, but that's okay. And programming, programming isn't like a test subject. It's not like you got to know it on your own in your head. No, the point is, can you do it? Like, Python is open source. A lot of programming is open source. It's really about, hey, if you don't know something, ask. You can ask your community. You can get help from others. The goal is really to be able to deliver code coming from you. If that means consulting others, that's totally fine. Okay, everybody does it. Professionals do it. Professional programmers do not know a bunch in their head and just crank out all day. They use Stack Overflow. They use the support of others to build upon what they know and to deliver what they want, okay, and what's needed. So let's get started. You guys know my favorite start. Write a function that, gosh, I'm not even sure what it's called after sextuple, quite honestly. How about that multiplies a number by 10 or 12? Let's do 12. Okay, this is one of the first types that we did. And here's what I want you to do. If you know how to do it, go ahead and do it. Do not wait for me. Okay, start. Okay, we shall be able to start it. And then you can listen along with me and check yours with mine. Fine if it's different. The important thing is that we get the same results. All right, so here we go. DEF, I'm going to call it multiply by 12 some number. I'm just going to return it. Return 12 times number. And as always, we're checking it, right? It's nice to check it on the next line because when I press Shift Enter and I start to write it, multiply. Now see, it hasn't run yet. Okay, but after it's run, now when I type multiply, well, usually, I think I was too slow, too fast. Sometimes Colab doesn't give you what the function, but it often does. You can press return, it makes it quicker. 12 times 12 should be 144. Multiply by 12 is not defined. Oh, because I didn't write it correctly. And I meant to call it multiply. See, look at that. I'm getting errors in the first one. Run them both, okay, if you need to make a change. And there it goes, 144. Okay, up next. Write a function that returns the area, one of my favorites, of a, let's see, what haven't we done? How about this? Let's do the volume. Mix it up a little. Of a rectangular prism. Cool. So what is that? Well, it's def volume. And then we need 3 pieces, actually. So there's a length, width, and a height. But to get the volume, you just multiply them together. So return length times width times height. But I don't usually catch these without writing the code. Look at this, I misspelled length here. All right, press Shift Enter, start typing volume. There it is. That's what you want to see. And then do one that you can check. I'll do 3 times 3, which is 9, times 4, which is 36. And get the expected output of 36. Hey, you get an error? Don't worry about it. Go back, try to make some corrections, okay? And don't trying to get frustrated with errors. We're all going to get them. Okay. You can totally like come back to it later too, and if you know how to do it. Okay, so let's do another one. We'll do one more math one for now. What about this? Write a function that returns area of square with units. Oh no! Unit in math, we shy away from units. In physics, you need them. Okay. So def square, area square. And then, so what's, okay. We should really have two inputs here. We should have the side of the square. Okay, what's the length of the side? And then we should have units here. Now, we can allow the user to specify the units, but we could also have meters by default. Okay, so, right, there's our first use today of name parameters, right, or default parameters. Okay, so if user doesn't specify, we're just going to assume it's meters. Okay, put my colon in. See that when I press return, it doesn't go to the right tab space. Put the colon in, press return, and it tabs. Okay, so now let's just get the area first without the units. Area equals side squared. But now we got to add the units, right? Okay, so how do we do that? I think an F string. Now, I think what to call it could let's just return it. Return the F string. Okay. The reason why I need the F string is because you gotta have the M in there. Well, it's the area. Plus the units. Put them right next to each other. But you've got to be a little careful here. If you guys know your math, like if the side is 2, it's actually 4 meters squared. So you want to square it in a way that would make sense to everyone, and that would do it. Okay, that was a little tricky. So press Shift Enter, call it out. So if I put in 3, I'm expecting 9 meters squared. Cool, right? It's cool. And then, just to show you, I can also specify different units. Oh no, that's not what mine was. Mine was 3, and the units were kilometers. Okay, see, that's how you change it. And then I can run it again. 9 kilometers squared. I just think that's so cool, right? You change the unit, it changes the output. It's lovely. Okay, what's next? Let's look at some like a string function. So how about write a function that we want to transform maybe a string. So how about this, that capitalizes a string and adds a period. Interesting, right? So we're assuming like it's like sentences that people aren't writing correctly. Okay, so definition would be, let's call it sentence. How about, sometimes it's nice to actually have the function specify what it does. How about turn to sentence, right? What are we going to turn to a sentence? Some string. Call it your string. Okay. Now, what are we going to do to your string? 2 things. Capitalize it and add a period. Now, I say capitalize it, but I think the idea is to, my thinking is like if it's a simple string, you could actually make it lowercase first. But we don't know because maybe it has other things that should be capitalized. So let's just do what it says. So let's do the capitalization first. So the capital would be, well, it's your string dot capitalize. Dot capital. Now, if you're ever unsure, by the way, you can just check it. So if I go down here to a new code cell and I can get some string like hello dot. It's better like this to call it out first. That's been stored as a string. So that's the difference. Now it's been stored as a string. Okay. And so now we can check after it's been stored. When I call the dot, it's going to give you the string methods, and it is capitalized. See, it wasn't what they were giving the options. So dot capitalize there, and then finally when we want to add a period. So with period, we can change it to capital. Now I don't think there's a dot period. I think you just want to do, like, you can just use the plus operator here. Plus period. Okay. Period. And then you can just return. It's called period, you know, because I didn't name it well. How about this? I like to name my variables. It actually makes sense. So there's your string with capital, and here it is with period. I'm going to return it with the period, but that also is the capital. How about this? With cap and period. With cap for consistency. I know you guys might think it's a little bit of overkill, but clarity matters. Okay. Okay, now let's try it. Turn to sentence. How is everyone today? Not very interesting. It also should have a question mark. Name capital is not defined. Go back up. Ah, yeah, I didn't change it here too. See that? Made it all cap. When you make changes, you got to make the changes consistently. Let's make this a little more exciting. Functions rule. Yes. Objective statement. Name cap is not defined because it should be with cap. See, this is the disadvantage to making a bunch of changes. You guys are probably done with this one and ready to move on. There we go, though. It's working. I love it. Look at that. That's just nice. Okay, so there's a string one. Let's do one with lists. Okay, here's a cool one. So definition is element in list, right? How do we do that? Well, we need two things. We need the element and the list, okay? And we have two possibilities. Either it is or it isn't. So let's look at the two different options, okay? So if element in list, what should we return? How about true, right? If it's not, we should be returning false. So else return false. I think that should be okay. Press shift enter. Is element in list. Okay, let's try one out. We saw before, like, element could be 3 and the list could be 3 and 5. True. Good. And then we could try, let's do it like this. A little tricky. Ooh, what should it be here? Is it in there? Should it be? What do you guys think? False, right? Because 3 and the number 3 and the string 3 are not in fact equivalent. So that seems to work. Okay, so this is the nice thing too about naming functions clearly. And right, you should still, like, typically functions are introduced with doc strings, as I mentioned. And the doc strings often say things like, you know, this is instead of me telling you what to do. This is like you telling the user, this function, this is what you should do if you're finalizing a function, okay? This function tells the user whether an element is in a list. The inputs are the element in question and the list. The output is true or false. See, that's just clear. It's crystal clear. Everything is clear there. Very nice. Okay. Now, the only thing that I'm not showing there too are comments. Because if you really want to make it clear, you actually put comments on each line. And the reason why I'm doing this right now is because we're, asking everyone to finalize one function. And when you do that, ideally you want to put a doc string at the top and comment your code. So how would I comment this code? Define function to check if element is in list. Or define each line actually. Check if element is in list. If yes, return true. Otherwise, element is not in list. See, don't just say like else, right? I mean, tell what that means. Otherwise, the element's not in the list. So if no, return false. Okay, so there's a commented code for that. Yes, you could simplify this greatly, but that's not the point here. The point is to like show how to properly finish a function. Okay, I want to do a couple more. And by the way, note that it doesn't change. Well, I think, does that docstring work like that? Yeah. Note that it doesn't change anything, okay? Because when it's in the triple quotes and hashtags, the code is not changed. Okay, so it can still give you the same result. Okay, so how about this? Let's look at, we can't do everything in a short review, okay? So let's do at least something with dictionaries though. Turn keys of dictionary. Do you want keys or values? Say keys. Turn keys of dictionary into list. Okay. You might take a moment to think about how you would do that. Def, I like to try to name it something that makes sense here. Convert keys to list. And certainly the input should be a dictionary, right? Okay, so how do we get the keys? You guys remember that? There are different ways you could do this. If you were on a list comprehensions, I'd encourage you to use one. Otherwise, you could just start with an empty list, okay? So key list maybe. So far there's nothing in it, right? It's empty. Well, now let's go through and get all the keys. So for keys in dict.keys, right? Remember that? See, dict is dict a keyword here? So that's color coded. I think it is. I'm going to change this. See how it changed color now? Because it's a variable. Variable shouldn't be color coded. So the input's a dictionary. We're now getting the keys, and we're just going to pin them to the list. Dot append the keys. Okay, and I can return the key list. Okay, I know that's tough if you're not used to dictionaries, but that's the general idea. Myself, I'm like, 50-50 if it's going to work. Okay, so let's give it a whirl. Convert. See when I start typing, I don't want to write all that in. That's too much. And there it is. Now I've got to put a dictionary in here, so I'll make a short one. So recall that for dictionaries, you need squiggly brackets. Normally, by the way, this would already be defined. So why don't I do that? I don't want to clutter it up too much. So I don't know. Let's call this fun dictionary. And then let's use, I'm not sure what'll make it fun. What's fun? I mean, how about comedy is fun? And you have different types like stand-up, sitcom. Okay, there's one for the list, and we'll do one more. Looks like we're doing something like, I don't know, styles of like genres. You could have something that's action. Your action could be like movie, could be I don't know, for lack of a better word, how about this, a series? Okay, point isn't to create the big dictionary, it's to see does it do what we want. Because I'm defining a fun dictionary, and I now want to put it in as input, press Shift Enter, look at that, it worked. It turned you can see often I use dictionaries, I'm excited that it works. It turns the keys, dictionaries are keys and values, into a list. Okay, so that's a functions review. Again, it's not meant to be thorough. It can't be thorough. You're going to get more practice on this, and you're going to practice the while loops by making a final game and doing some other cool things. So again, tremendous job getting through this. I'm really impressed with everyone. It is just tremendous for you to be able to step forward, make a commitment, and see it through all the way to this final core lecture. Job well done.